Okay, right. This is Ollie. I'm just doing this for the TV. It's going to be on YouTube, right? So what's it? So if people want to log in to see what
Big George paper review.
Big George paper review, right? Okay then. Right. So this is the paper review with John Kaponi from LondonDailyNews.com and me, Big George. That wasn't the right button to push. Ollie, look, I'm going to get the hang of this. I promise you, I'll get the hang of it. This is about Ukraine. They're accused of gas that was on its way to Europe. I mean, this whole thing of energy stealing, oil pipes and gas pipes, and these pipes are 1,000 miles long.
Yeah.
You can't have armed guards along the whole lot of it, can you?
No, but this is actually a really important story because there's a massive dispute now between the Russians and the Ukrainians about payment. The Russians are claiming that the Ukrainians owe billions of dollars in unpaid bills for their gas. Most of the gas that comes to Europe goes through Kiev and the Ukraine. And what's actually happening is that because the Ukrainians are worried about a possible cut in their gas supplies, they're actually siphoning off gas that should be coming to us, so that they've got some backup just in case.
So they're making the gas go through. They're drilling a hole in the pipeline and siphoning some out.
And actually, isn't it? But the thing that we should be more concerned about is that here in the UK, because of consecutive years of underinvestment in our gas facilities, we've got the ability to store 10 and 12 days worth of gas, as opposed to an average of about 50 and 60 days in the rest of Europe. So if the gas supplies went down, yes,
we've got less fortnight.
Yeah, and also another sort of outcome of the story is that because of the the scarcity of gas, there's a lot of pressure by the watchdogs to try and bring down prices of gas. But, the outcome of this particular dispute is there won't be any drops in gas in the foreseeable future, because everyone's now saying gas just takes to another level. So that's one unfortunate outcome. But increasingly, these this new year as well, I think there'll be a lot more just over. Again, energy, supplies in our energy, gas and also to the so-developed world, and there'll be a lot more conflicts over that. So this issue between Russia and the Ukraine has implications for us here in London, and we need to be careful about in which we use our gas supplies. And unfortunately, it's not just this government, but consecutive governments haven't invested in storage facilities to weather any shortages.
I'll tell you what, the second story kind of leads on to this, because if you think about Russia, 15 years ago, it was a broken country.
Yes.
And you had after that whole thing Yeltsin in there, who became a buffoon, a joke, a drunken idiot who would dance and sing and fall over. And they seemed to, it seemed to be that people were writing Russia off. They're now a major powerhouse, and an active powerhouse, and the Greeks are giving them a green light for war games in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, it's and this is an.
Now, is this so they're going to get secure energy?
No, I mean, what the primary aim of this, war game, and it starts today. It starts, today and it ends on the sort of 11th of January. It's really, the Russian, military and their navy are going around the Greek islands and in the Eastern Mediterranean to carry out full-blown war games, so that they can simulate certain situations that they may be involved in. And if we just look at the armaments, there'll be 25 Sukhoi aircraft, 33 fighter aircraft, and there'll be Kamov helicopters. So this is a very serious exercise by the Russians. What is significant is that the Greek government is the first NATO sort of government, or government under the NATO umbrella, to allow the Russians, after the Cold War, to carry out exercises of this nature. And also, given the fact that in the region at the moment there is a very strong chance of an Israeli ground offensive into Gaza, so the Russians are not far away from this, and they're using heavy military to carry these war games at these very sensitive times. Now, what is quite annoying, or sort of the issue that has been queried by a lot of the Western governments in Greece is why now, and why allow the Russian government to go out and do these exercises in such a sensitive area?
That is a pretty top question on the list.
Yeah. And the response has been basically, we are entitled to carry out in friendly waters war games, as the Americans have done before, as we do regularly. to try out our naval ships and our power. But
but why in the Mediterranean? I mean, there's an awful lot of coastline.
It's a very strategically important area because at the moment,
but they're not. If they're doing this. This is the thing that I find of interest. If the Russians are doing this as an exercise, as war games, to test their stuff out, why aren't they doing this, in their own waters, where they're free to do whatever they want? Why do they need to be in a strategically, hot spot of the world?
So that what's actually going on as well. At the moment, in the areas around Syria and Cyprus and in sort of around Turkey, there's a dispute over who is allowed to go out and find oil. There's a lot of untapped oil reserves in that region, and the Turkish government has been quite vocal against, particularly the Cypriots exploiting that resource. The Greek government has been annoyed by the way in which the Americans have sort of sided with the Turks on this kind of issue, and I think it could be a sort of, maybe like a retaliation by the Greek government to say, well, we've got strong to Russia anyway through economic
so it's
agreements,
all posturing.
And it's all posturing. But at the same time, though, this is the key thing: Russia is a major player now, and it's reassert on the global stage. It's saying to everyone in the region that we've got the military power, and also if you see the last paragraph as well, that the plans to upgrade the Russian military naval fleet to have a new nuclear-powered sort of aircraft frigate. So that will be the first generation up to sort of any capabilities that we've got in this country and the Americans. So there'll be a direct posturing by the Russians saying to the West, well, we will go out and defend our national interest. We've got the military power to back it up. We've got the financial ability to also do the same thing. And the Ukrainian issue highlights the Israelis for a minute believe that by them inflicting heavy punishment on the Palestinians that they're going to have more security. I think that's an illusion, and I'm someone who's spoken consistently up for Israel before. But I think on this particular issue, I understand that the amount of rockets that have been flown in from Gaza by Hamas, has been a major security concern. But to go in with heavy jets, Apache helicopters into civilian areas, and to inflict this kind of collateral damage is against international law, number one, and secondly, it doesn't fulfill the objectives for what Israel's doing. But internal Israeli opinion is 100% nearly in favour of what their government is doing, and it's there is a very consistent support for the IDF in Israel and in the diaspora by the Jewish communities around the world, and the Operation Cast Lead, which is the name of the operation that the Israelis have given to this invasion. Today, in terms of how the Israelis see it, has been successful. But at the same time, though, and we ran a report months ago about Hamas building up a very strong network of about 15 to 20,000 fighters who are guerrilla trained combatants. So what happens when an Israeli soldier is taken hostage? Do you think there's going to be any what's the word, any sort of holding back? There won't be. There'll be complete aggression there because of what Israeli. So what has to happen, and this is the most, for me, the most troubling, is that the Americans haven't said anything.